What to do, my good people? Look, just sitting around here looking at the presidential election for 2024 and decided I'd do a little watch, man, and uh, see how you guys were feeling about the election and how it's going right now. I know a lot of people have their own, uh, you know, thing about the elections, and I'm normally not the political person in terms of, trying to debate or anything like that. But I did want to know, like, in terms of who you guys voted for, why you guys voted for that particular person, and so I just wanted to be able to put that out here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually add the video to the screen so we can kind of talk about kind of what's going on with the election right now. Uh, and you guys can share your thoughts.
As we talk about the blue wall that Reince was mentioning in the upper Midwest, a lot of those voters
This
have
is
overlap as well.
this is
Which
this
is why
is
Reince says they're not
with
getting
this
ahead of themselves
election,
either, because
you know,
Pennsylvania so far, at least at this point, looks like it has some promising signs for the
let
Harris
me blow
campaign
the
and their
screen
effort to
up.
try to reach
I wanna
suburban
get
voters,
back
like
to
in the collar counties around Philadelphia, which
yeah.
you had showed us. She seems to be doing well, and in Allegheny
You
County
guys
as well.
kind of
Where
share
do those
your
numbers stand?
Yeah,
thoughts
so I can show you
on
Allegheny, which is
how you
Pittsburgh.
feel like
That
the
is
election is
just a
going
Democratic
right now.
stronghold right now. It used to be even
Uh,
stronger Democratic, but you've seen the
Again,
numbers
I don't.
get a little
In
bit
all
higher with
comments
the
and
last couple of
welcome who you
elections, and with
voted
about
for,
half
why
the
you
vote in
voted for
right
'em.
now in the Pittsburgh area.
So
Yeah, the numbers are getting
no
hit.
judgment
The
over
538
here.
benchmark would suggest
You
she's running
voted for
ahead
who
of
you
where
voted
she needs
for.
to go. And yeah, you mentioned the
I can
Philadelphia
tell you I
suburbs.
voted for
Still
Kamala
not a lot of
Harris.
vote in places like Chester County,
For
but
one,
Harris is getting at least close to her
I
numbers.
don't think
Montgomery County
if
hitting
you
a
look
little bit
at
above it
both of the
right now.
candidates, I don't
And
think either
Bucks,
one of
I'm
the
still
candidates are like
watching because that
you,
kind of
you'd be my
margin, if that
favorite
carries through the
person in
night,
the
would be
world.
really
But
surprising and
out
would
of the
bode well
two,
for her chances. We're still waiting on about
uh,
3/4 of the
my
vote in
opinion of
Philadelphia,
Donald
which
Trump,
is just a monster
for lack of
in
better
that state.
words, I'm
There's
just
so
not
much
gonna
vote out
say
there,
I'm not
and as you'd
pleased
expect,
with it.
Harris is carrying it
And
handily.
I feel like the
112,000
Republicans
votes that
should
she's
have selected
getting
a
out of the
better
city of
candidate
Philadelphia.
to
That's
represent
almost
them other than
there's
Trump.
about
For some
2/3 to
reason, he
3/4 of the
always seems
margin
to
she
be the
has in the entire
front
state right
runner.
now.
And for
Let's
some
swing over
reason,
to
I
Rachel
don't know
Scott
if
at the
it's
other
how
board. And Rachel, you're
I
looking
don't
at
know
the
who's
Senate
going to
race.
stir the pot
Casey looking to hold on to his seat, famous name
or
in
whatever the
Pennsylvania,
situation may
obviously his
be.
father in politics as
And he
well many
definitely
years
stirred.
ago. Dave McCormick challenging him, and where does that race stand? I saw a moment ago, it looked like he was underperforming Harris in some respects, at least in Allegheny County.
Yeah, let's take a look at where it stands statewide right now. This is how we can compare
That's
how the
Pennsylvania.
presidential candidates are doing at the top of the ticket to the Senate candidates in this race. So you have Vice President Kamala Harris statewide, 52%. Again, very early, 30% of the vote in right now. Bob Casey also at 52. You mentioned the area around Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. Let's take a look at
And
where
red
that stands
states
and
be
how these
popping.
two compare here. You have Vice President Kamala Harris, 65%, Bob Casey, 65 as well. Also going to be looking at Scranton. He's from Scranton, home to President Joe Biden. You could see he's performing a little bit better than Vice President Kamala Harris here. In the final stretch, David, Bob Casey has been running ads in this state, really painting himself as an independent that bucked President Biden when it came to tariffs and also sided with former President Donald Trump. He has been trying to find a middle ground here because he is fully aware that if Vice President Kamala Harris does not do well here, it could impact his race as well.
Let's swing it out to Matt Gutman, who's on the ground in Pennsylvania. Matt, what are you hearing?
I'm hearing that it looks like Senator Casey has a very good chance here. I mean, from the beginning, Governor Josh Shapiro and others have told me that he is the most likely to win here. His father was a governor. He is the scion of a very famous family here, also from Scranton, like former President Biden. And McCormick's got a big knock against him, and that is that he hasn't really lived in the state. He lives mostly in Connecticut, and that is something that apparently has affected voters here. Now, there's another thing I want to talk about, and that is
I like
the
too
results
how
and
they
the timing
are
of the results,
highlighting the
David.
different
I spoke to
counties.
Governor Shapiro, and he's been very adamant about accuracy
See
being
how those
first,
particular
also the
counties are
vote
actually
being
doing in
safe
those states.
and fair. But officials here understand that they are in a race against the clock. You remember back in 2020, it took almost 5 days to tabulate the vote here. That delta between the elections and the results
Y'all let me
left
know who you
all
voted
this
for
space
and
for
why you
rumor
voted
and
for him in the
conspiracy
comments.
theory, which was jumped upon by the Trump administration. That's happening again already. But this time, they aim to do it much more quickly. They have more voting machines, although they still are not allowed to pre-process the mail-in ballots until 7 a.m. on Election Day. But the state funding that goes to the counties that's tied to their election funding stipulates that they cannot stop counting once they have started until they are completely done. So they've got rotating crews going round the clock to count the votes. Most of the counties tell me they hope to have it done at some point tomorrow afternoon. One thing to look at is Erie County. At last glance, they have about only 1% in. Officials there telling me there is massive voter turnout. And because there was a snafu with their mail-in ballots, the vendor sent them to the wrong addresses. Some people didn't get them. I was told that counting the mail-in ballots could take an additional days, possibly even weeks. So that could take a long time. And of course, Erie County is a pivotal swing county that has swung from side to side over the past several elections, David.
Yeah, one of those boomerang counters we're going to be watching very closely, Erie up in the northwestern part of Pennsylvania. Matt, thanks so much. Let's go to the wall here. You can see the 3 blue wall states right up there right now. Kamala Harris with a lead early in the night in all 3 of those states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all about the same margin, by the way, 52 to 47 Pennsylvania, a similar lead in Michigan, and with 18% of the vote in Wisconsin, 51-47. Lindsay, I know we're getting some exit poll data from voters, how independents are breaking in these so-called 3 blue wall states, or Rust Belt states as they're called.
And obviously the independent voter, highly coveted by both campaigns. It's not voting so well for Kamala Harris for those independent voters in Pennsylvania. You see 24% of those voters, pretty significant amount, about a quarter of those voters in Pennsylvania identify as independent, and they are breaking by 6 points for Donald Trump. He actually is doing 6 points better this election than he did in 2020. But Michigan and Wisconsin, a little bit more hope for the Harris campaign. She's actually leading when it comes to the independent voters by 3 points compared to Donald Trump. And Wisconsin, more of the same.
To be honest with
She's
y'all,
leading by 4 points with the independent votes. But Donald Trump doing 5 points better with the independent voters in
I don't
Wisconsin
even know.
in 2020. He's doing 1 point
Can
better
imagine.
in Michigan when it comes to the independent voter.
Mary Bruce,
I mean,
this
right,
makes me
man.
think of you and your reporting these last couple of
No, I-
days,
I
the
said I
Harris
won't
campaign
do that.
telling you that this was going to be very
I said I
close, and
won't
they
do
said
that.
they knew that.
I ain't gonna do it.
And that is what we are seeing here tonight. Very close, still very tight, and a long way to go. I mean, that is the message coming out of the Harris campaign tonight.
Let me ask y'all this.
I think they are
Do y'all
encouraged and
think
buoyed by what they are seeing
that
in
if it's a
Pennsylvania.
clear,
I think, when it comes to Georgia, I'm hearing that they are pointing
it's a
particularly to
clear
the
shot
suburban
that
support that they're
Kamala
getting
Harris
there. They say
got
they
it
are
right.
tracking slightly above
She got the
expectations
electoral votes,
among suburban
but
early voters in
y'all think
Georgia.
President
They also are
Trump,
pointing to the
I
rural
mean,
turnout in Georgia. They
former
say they are
President
not
Trump,
seeing
they
signs of some
continue.
surging rural turnout.
Y'all
They,
know
of
he
course,
don't
are waiting
concede.
for
He like
results
to
from those
fight.
larger
He
rural
like
counties. But
to
look,
drag it
they've
out.
said all along their most straightforward path is to win the blue wall states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. They have put a lot of energy and
I
effort
did hear
into those 3
they
states. But
said
again,
that
they always said this was going to be a
there was some
tight race
Republicans
that was
that
going to
said
be
that
won
if
in
he
the margins.
was,
John.
Look, there are clearly troubling signs for
if he was
Democrats
like, if
throughout
she
the
had
Sun
all
Belt, whether it's in the
electoral votes,
non-battleground states like Virginia or like Florida,
that the
or
Republicans felt
whether
like
it's in the
that he
battleground
should go
states,
ahead on and concede.
Georgia
So,
and North Carolina. Look,
y'all
anybody
know
can still win there,
President
but
Trump don't,
you don't see any
don't just go
sign
to
that
these
Kamala
like
Harris is running away with anything.
he ain't
But I
gonna go
just
without a
heard
fight.
from a top Democrat who is following this as close as anybody, it was always going to come down to the blue wall. Everything else is
Y'all
gravy.
excuse me, I'm
Think
eating
about
dinner
what
while
that
we having this
means,
watch. I gotta still
David.
eat.
If those are the only states that she wins in the battleground, you get to 270 electoral votes. Kamala Harris. She wins because she won a single electoral vote in one of 2 states that divide the city of Omaha in Nebraska.
Y'all can't show y'all
And
vote for
that's
who y'all voted
what they're
for. Why
looking at
y'all
right now. I
scared
mean,
to
look, I
know
mean,
why
we have a
y'all voted? Who y'all
long
voted
way
for
to
and why?
go. But that ultimately
I voted
is
early for
looking more
Kamala.
and more like the path that Kamala Harris is going to need to get elected
And
president.
part of that coalition, if she hopes to get to 270 tonight, includes the independent voters. I would think that seeing the way they're breaking in Pennsylvania, at least early in the preliminary exits, is not terribly encouraging, though independents, Lindsay was pointing out, Michigan and Wisconsin are breaking her way, again, according to the preliminary exit polls. And in fact, we've got some great new numbers coming in from Wisconsin that we
Bones in
can
the
dig
pit.
into and really see how both campaigns are doing here right after the break. Don't go away. ABC News live coverage of the presidential race continues. Wisconsin up on deck here. We're going to look at the numbers from that state in just a moment.
Coming up, we're live in the battleground zones
Good job,
as
both
Election
ways.
Night 2024 continues on ABC.
When you're 61 years old, you have very few opportunities to change your life. This time,
Oh, wow, that's in commercial. Who did y'all vote for and why? And why was it important for you to vote for that particular person? Because there's I saw the black men summit that they did, the DL Hughley hosted, and when he hosted that, I really thought it was gonna be. There was a lot of black men in that room, a lot of black men, and I really thought that some of them were gonna really say that they were voting or they were advocating for President Trump. The thing what I saw in there though was um, a couple of guys brought up of the misinformation. Um, they brought up they had a lot of misinformation about Kamala Harris from her attorney general attorney days, and how they said she used to go out to black men and prosecute black men, but when they actually looked at the actual cases, they said it was like 8. So there's a lot of misinformation going on about that. So and I think with President Trump, he says what he want to say, when he want to say it, how he want to say it, and then his campaign staff just come up behind him and try to clean it up or try to say what he meant to say or what he was really saying, which is really crazy. But so again, to each his own. Whoever you voted for is who you voted for. No judgment over here. But me personally, I voted for Kamala Harris in the early voting. So just so y'all know that. All right, we back. Let me click back on it because we back. Who did you vote for and why? Braxton trip.
more energized over the last couple of weeks because they just didn't like what they were hearing from the Trump campaign. Also, I should tell you that this particular city has just seen tremendous growth over the last few years. And a lot of those folks who have moved in here have been highly educated, blue-leaning voters. So this is becoming a much deeper blue part of the state, too. So that might cut into some of those margins that, that Trump might have in those red counties. So this might be the place where Harris might find a little bit of good news with those youth voters, like around the country. They've been standing in lines today, waiting to vote. So we'll see what it actually produces as the night goes on. But waiting for those absentee ballots to be processed, that is the thing that takes so long. So that will keep us sort of waiting throughout the night. But they tell us that it's moving along smoothly. They had a small snafu earlier, but it was just a small technical glitch. They think that's going to move along. So Milwaukee and, of course, Madison will probably deliver well for her. And the big question is going to be how big? Because as you said, 20,000 votes or so for Biden last time. Can she do better than that? That's what she's going to have to probably do to feel solid here in Wisconsin. David?
Deborah Roberts in Madison. Deborah, appreciate it. 28% of the vote in. Kamala Harris up by about 41,000 votes. Ryan's got about a minute before we have to hit a break here. What do you make of what you saw? I saw Donald Trump surpassing his benchmarks that he needed to ever so slightly, but in each one of those counties, Rick showed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rick showed Kenosha, Wisconsin, where I grew up. That
Yeah,
always was a
fellas,
Democrat
I did
town.
too.
It's where Chrysler American Motors was. 57% is huge. He was at 50% in 2020, about 47% in 2016. The key for Wisconsin right now, though, is Madison, Dane County, that blue in the middle. If Donald Trump can stay above 24%, I think Kamala Harris is going to have a tough time. The difference in 2016 and 2020 was about 80,000 votes, which was a difference. It was 1 percentage point, and he's running 2% higher.
What's good to watch, read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy? Oh, it's
So yeah, you know, Kamala Harris. Ah, you know, it is what it is. Who you voted for is who you vote for. You know, and if you already voted, you can't take it back. So, but as of right now, I'm a little concerned. Just kind of looking at some of the numbers. I know it's still kind of early, but I'm a little concerned, just a little bit, because I feel like, you know, I want to say we did this with Biden too a little bit, where we kind of at the last minute, everybody was trying to hit the polls at the last minute, and like it's too much could go wrong, you know. I've never really understood people in the last minute stuff and all that. You know, it's kind of the way it is, man. But anyway, we back.
Acting Harris will win Colorado, Illinois, and New York. New York coming in 28 electoral votes. Here's each candidate's and where they stand right now. 91 going to Harris, 162 to Donald Trump. As
Man
you know,
got
to win,
162
candidate needs
electoral votes,
270.
man.
And one more note from New York, the Equal
Woo!
Rights Proposition, which adds new anti-discrimination protections to the state's constitution, is projected to pass. New York is one of the 10 states with abortion-related initiatives
Looking
on the
scary,
ballot.
yeah.
Let's check in now on Battleground, Pennsylvania. To see Kamala Harris at 50%, Donald Trump 49.1. It's close, 41% of the vote that's in. Let's head to Matt Gutman now. He's in Philly tonight. Matt, we're seeing roughly 22% of the vote now. Vice President Kamala Harris seems to be holding on to her lead over the former president. As we know, Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes of any swing state, Matt.
19 of them, Kira, and the math doesn't work for either candidate unless they win Pennsylvania. And Kamala Harris jumped out to a very big and early lead. That has dwindled to what we are seeing right now. And this is why there's so much focus tonight on the count, when it will be done. Governor Josh Shapiro telling me 2 days ago and coming out again saying, we aim first to be accurate. That is the most important. But everybody knows here that there is this dissonance at play. They've got to be fast and accurate. In 2020, it took them 5 days to tabulate the entire vote. They now hope to do it in a much shorter amount of time. All the counties here have committed to not stopping the count until they are fully done. Every vote is tabulated. Kira.
Our Matt Gutman,
Man.
historic Philadelphia.
5
Thanks,
days?
Matt. I'm Kira Phillips. Glad you're with us tonight. I hope you'll stay with ABC News. Our team is bringing you
5
election
days?
results all throughout the night, led by David Muir. Don't go far. Our race for the White House coverage continues.
We shared a strange, unusual experience, but seeing you here tonight just
So yeah, we, man, I sure hope she win Pennsylvania. If she win Pennsylvania, I feel like there's a hope. And then, boy, if she Pennsylvania and Georgia, Biden won Georgia last time, but if she win Georgia and Pennsylvania, good shot. Good shot, but yeah, I don't know. It's because it's so tight and so close, and I don't understand it. Like the people that actually voted for Trump. I mean, if you voted for Trump, cool, but y'all can't make me understand no logic behind it. None whatsoever. Like, and I get it. Everybody has a right to vote for who they want to vote for, and that is true. But there is no logic that you can explain to me that justifies dude being president. Nothing, no logic. So, but I know there's a strong possibility that he could very well be the next president. So, but anyway, let's see where
You can see
we
about
at.
43% of the vote in at this hour. Kamala Harris with the slightest of leads there. In Michigan at this hour, another battleground state, part of that blue wall that the Democrats are hoping to keep. 15 electoral votes. Kamala Harris with a lead over former President Trump, 466,000 votes to his 419,000. Just 16% of the vote in at this hour. Wisconsin, we were looking at a moment ago. Wisconsin, the numbers starting to come in tonight. Very close race there, about a point between them. And as I mentioned, 4 out of the last 6 presidential elections decided in that state by less than a point. Arizona tonight, another key battleground state. The number's not in yet, though. The polls have closed. 11 electoral votes on the line there. We do have states. ABC News is ready to project at this hour. Let's take a look. Utah tonight, 6 electoral votes going to former President Donald Trump. Montana, the 4 electoral votes going to Trump there. We're going to watch that Senate race very closely. The Democrat John Tester trying to hold on in a state Trump has now won repeatedly. Colorado, Kamala Harris wins the state of Colorado, 9 electoral votes. goes to the vice president. So take a look at the map. The road to 270. Kamala Harris winning 7 states and Washington, D.C. Donald Trump winning 17 states. 172 electoral votes for him, up to 91 for Kamala Harris at this hour. Our coverage of the 2024 presidential election continues right now.
This is an ABC News special. The time has finally come. Right now, all across America, votes are being counted. Who will be your next president on this historic night with the stakes so high? Live from ABC News election headquarters in New York City. Now reporting, David Muir.
Welcome back, ABC News live election night headquarters here in New York City. And we are getting not only numbers in, but more exit polling data from the key battlegrounds. Lindsay, what do you have?
All right. Well, so interesting enough, the Harris campaign has really doggedly pursued the Latino vote. We've seen that really ratchet up, in particular in recent weeks. Donald Trump equally. He was in Pennsylvania recently, just last week, and he said, "I love the Latinos." He was in New Mexico a few days ago. He said, "I love the Hispanics."
No,
and
you
it
don't.
Appeals,
He don't love them.
that there is some appeal there for the Latino
You don't love
voters
them.
when it comes to Donald Trump. If you look at the race in Nevada in particular, the Latino vote making up 17% there. Here we go. 48% going for Kamala Harris. They're in Nevada. 46% for Donald Trump. But Donald Trump is actually doing 4 points better. Actually, I'm sorry. That's in Arizona. Harris is doing 4 points worse than Biden in Arizona, and Trump doing 4 points better than he did in 2020. If we want to look at that board there in Arizona, Kamala Harris getting 55% of the Latino vote. They make up more than 1/4% of the population in Arizona. Donald Trump getting 41%. But in both cases, he's doing much better. Trump 11 points better than he did in 2020 in Nevada, and again, 4 points better than he did in Arizona in 2020.
And this is exactly what the Trump campaign wanted to do, was to peel away some of the Latino support that President Biden got 4 years ago. And Martha, you traveled through Nevada and through the Sun Belt, and what did you hear?
Well, I think what I heard was surprising in some ways. I mean, you think, oh, the Latino vote is going to go to the Democrats. Absolutely not. I mean, that's not the impression you got on the ground. You had unions out there canvassing for Kamala Harris, but it all came back to the voters I spoke to the economy. And even those Democrats who were out canvassing for Kamala Harris knew that was an issue. Like, how do you explain to people the economy, that people trust Donald Trump more on that? And they said, well, we tell them it just takes time. So that message was not really resonating. Nevada has the highest unemployment rate of any state in the country. They were devastated after COVID. And that is the issue. You know, you can talk about exaggeration. You can talk about them calling Puerto Ricans garbage. You can talk about all those things, but it came back to the economy. They can hear lies. They can hear mistruths. They can hear exaggerations. But their truth is their grocery bills, their gas bills. And that's what it came back to on many, many people I interviewed.
And the high cost of housing in Nevada, too.
Exactly. Very, very high costs of rents and immigration, of course. And you could talk to Latino voters. There was one man, he said, I don't care about any of that other stuff. Donald Trump is going to be best for the border. This is a man who came into the country 50 years ago illegally. He is now a citizen. He doesn't want any more migrants, and that's why he's voting for Donald Trump.
Yeah, really interesting. And part of what Lindsay was showing us, I mean, she still is leading among Latino voters, but not by the margin that President Biden did 4 years ago. And that's got to be very concerning for the Democrats and the Harris campaign, Mary.
Yeah, look, I would just remind over and over again that they had said from the very beginning, and they're saying again tonight, their most straightforward path is through those blue wall states. And when you look at what we're seeing coming in, that certainly seems to still be the case, and I suspect is still their hope. You know, the Harris campaign is well aware of all of those issues, especially in Nevada. It's why she, unveiled her housing plan in that state. She knew that she had to hammer home the issue of the economy and make clear that that was going to be her top priority, that lowering was going to be at the very first thing, her very first priority when she gets into office. She always said she would pass, if elected, this big economic package of bills to do just that. The question is whether that message got across and was enough.
Rick Klein, what's the blue wall looking like at this point?
Yeah, we've seen some numbers come in that shifted the lead, again, numerically, because it just has to do with the pace of vote. But right now, Donald Trump with a 33,000 vote edge. We've gotten a lot of rural vote.
This is Pennsylvania.
This is Pennsylvania, yes. You asked earlier about Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County. That has flipped red, at least as of now, with 57% of the vote in. Donald Trump racking up some numbers there in an area where Democrats had some hopes to build things up. You can also see what's starting to happen in the western part of the state. We've got some significant numbers north of Pittsburgh and Butler County. This is a place where Donald Trump is coming close to his benchmark number. Really, this is a function of a lot of vote coming in the redder parts of the state. We still have a lot to go in Philadelphia. That's the kind of it's by far the biggest city. We're seeing Delco go very strongly for Kamala Harris. She's outperforming where she would need to be, also outperforming where Joe Biden was. And the same story up through Montgomery. And this is still an interesting one, Bucks County. A lot of folks are keyed into that. A lot of votes still to go. Unclear exactly what kind of vote that is, but at least now Kamala Harris outperforming that benchmark. So it's just a long night to go, but we're getting close to half the votes in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this would appear to be her strongest state so far as her benchmark performance, at least meeting that 538 average of where these candidates need to be. Donald Trump, in a number of the counties you just showed, slightly below the benchmark, though getting very close to it.
Yeah.
Which explains why the vote is so close right now. 46% of the vote in, Donald Trump with a very slight lead in Pennsylvania. And you were looking at the Latino vote in Pennsylvania and some of the counties where they live and wondering if this 11th hour push by the Harris campaign to try to reach out to Latinos would actually work.
Yeah, and as Martha was talking about what she saw there in Nevada, I was thinking about what I saw personally here in Pennsylvania. This is Berks County, which includes Reading. Donald Trump has a campaign office here. This is a county that has a large Hispanic and Latino population. Reading is 72% Latino. This is one of those counties where we are going to see this split screen because you have Donald Trump's rhetoric. You have that rally after Madison Square Garden where that speaker compared Puerto Rico to an island of garbage. This is also a county where the economy just matters so much. They're still dealing with high poverty. Let's take a look at where Donald Trump is here. I will tell you, he's already meeting his benchmark with 76% of the vote in. You could see where he was just 4 years ago, 53%. He's already there. We're still waiting on a large amount of election day vote as well as early by mail vote as well. And then again, right here, David, he's already performing really well here. While he was campaigning here in Reading, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Allentown. This is Lehigh County. You can see just how well she's doing here. Right now, she's ahead by 6,000 votes or so, but still a lot of vote left to be counted, 43% in right now.
Thanks, Rachel. Rick, one of the things that's very telling is the map with the sort of circular diagram that shows you where the vote still remains. Can you just show us in Pennsylvania at this hour where the vote still has to be tallied? I want to take this over to Donna and Reince, the one that shows the outstanding vote.
Yeah, you can see that's Philadelphia and the suburbs.
Gives you
a good amount of vote in Pittsburgh as well. When you see a purple dot like that, that's more of a battleground county, so it's probably not going to advantage either candidate. But there's a significant amount of Republican votes still outstanding as well, and what looks like it's going to be a close state.
The battle for Pennsylvania, Donna. What do you make of it?
First of all, I've taken my meditation early because, once again, Democrats are going to come in late. They're going to come in late in Pennsylvania. And clearly in Georgia, what's happening is that Democrats are not overperforming. And DeKalb and Cobb and Fulton, you have to overperform because Donald Trump is doing 4 points better in some of the rural areas. So again, Democratic cities tend to come in late. I'm seeing that pattern once again. I have, good information that Philadelphia is going to come in much stronger than in 2020. And by the way, in some of these areas, you can compare apples to apples, but they had to build a different coalition. So I'm also looking in some of these suburbs, if the issue of abortion, the threat of democracy, if it worked in those areas in terms of pulling out her vote.
And those are the collar counties around Philadelphia. Can we take another look at that based on Donna's point here, whether or not Harris is having success in those counties, getting the numbers up to where they need to be?
Yeah, for sure. Chester County is a key one there. It's about 5% of the whole statewide total. Not a lot of information in yet. We're seeing Harris run a little bit below where she needs to do to hold even there. Montgomery County, an outperformance so far, again, with less than a third of the vote in. And I've kept my eye on Bucks throughout the night to try to track this because this is good news if you're the the Harris
Wow.
campaign. Delco, similar
It's
story.
so
And
close
as
right
Donna
now.
said with
This
Philadelphia,
is really,
one of the
really
interesting little
scary.
quirks is just how
And
Clinton's vote share
Pennsylvania,
actually
like,
went down a
is
little
neck
bit with
and
Joe
neck.
Biden. Biden wins the
It's,
state,
you
but
know,
Clinton
with
actually
Trump
did a
with
little
a
bit
slight
better in the city
advantage
of
right now, but
Philadelphia, even though it was
and I
elsewhere in the
think
state that,
48% of the votes
he
are
was able
in,
to make up votes.
and
So
you know,
what kind of coalition is built becomes really
I'm
important.
looking at that. I'm
through
looking
all of
at
this.
that.
You can also look at some of the
And
more
it
battleground,
always,
closely
you know,
divided
we
places.
always
Again,
get a lot
it's
of
hard to
red.
know how much of the vote is election
But I
day
think that
versus
what matters is
versus
those
vote by mail.
states
There's still a lot of
that
it that is
have
the
those
in-person
huge
vote that
number
might
of
shift some of these
electoral
numbers.
votes.
These are not horrible numbers. You asked me earlier about Erie County.
And
That's
those are the
that
ones that are
boomerang county. Very
huge.
little of the vote in right now. But this just looks like it's a battle.
Those are the states
A
that
real
we
battle,
need to
Bryce.
win.
What do you make of what
with
we're seeing in Pennsylvania?
those huge
Well, I think it's going to
electoral
take a
votes.
long time. I mean, we're just going to have to be patient with
Donald Trump up
Pennsylvania.
there, he only need
pretty
270.
slow
He up to
at getting these
195.
results in. There's even though not as much as 2020, just a boatload of early votes that still need to be counted, a lot in Philadelphia County. So I'm a little bit slow to opine on Pennsylvania, but I do think things are looking very interesting south of Pennsylvania and Virginia still. And I think that's something that there's not getting a lot of attention yet, but I think people are going to start focusing on
The
Virginia.
closeness of Virginia. Let's take a look, Rick. Where does Virginia stand right now?
Yeah, this is just one of those really strange ones to see a 4,000 vote edge. A lot of votes left in the Democratic areas. Those are our bluer dots. But again, it's just not. One of the things that strikes me, David, looking at the map as it's filled in so far, the fact that the Democrats are sweating some of the places that should have been safe. We haven't made a projection in New Hampshire. We haven't made a projection in Connecticut. Rhode Island, we talked about earlier, closer than we thought. Of course, Virginia. These are places that Democrats flat out have to win if they're going to have any chance.
Take us through some of those states. Let's see where New Hampshire stands, because we saw some tightening in the polls leading up to Election Day.
Yeah, we did. And this is a state that we kind of thought would be called a little earlier in the night because they have a pretty tradition. Most of the Democratic votes are in the southern part of the state. And again, Harris is leading. The question is going to be really how much she wins by.
Outperforming herself in Concord.
Outperforming there. But to me, the fact that we're even talking about states like this tells you how things are at least tipping early in the night. And the southern states, clearly there's an edge right now in Georgia and North Carolina. North Carolina, I've been tracking a lot, 230,000 vote margin. That's hard to make up when you're at 70% of the vote. The thing that is keeping out of anyone's win column is Mecklenburg County. That's Charlotte. Kamala Harris is winning there. She's not hitting the 538 benchmark number, but you want to see a really big dot emerge. There it is, and that's almost 500,000 votes that are still out in the Charlotte area. But if she's winning at 60-40 instead of 68-20 or 68-30, that means you're just not getting as many votes out of it, and that makes it hard to catch up against that number.
No question about that. We're going to check in with Trump headquarters in Florida. We're going to check in with Harris headquarters, see what the mood is on the ground at this point in the night. And we're going to keep digging into these Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, because that appears to be the path as we continue in the night, at least for the Democrats to keep this alive. As Rick Klein just points out, and smartly so, the reason North Carolina can't be called is because of the outstanding vote in Charlotte, which is a Democratic area. But given the margin between the two, it might be really difficult to make that up. So we're going to keep our eyes on the math. We'll get right back to it right after the break.
Your voice, your vote. Election night 2024. The race for the White House continues.
Yeah, so man, this is tighter than I would hope for. Way tighter than what I would hope for, and it's pretty darn scary. So you know, if Trump wins, you know, we just might well to get ready for 4 years of hell, you know. And I know a lot of people might not see it that way, but it's gonna be pretty crazy. So yeah. So anywho, I think I've shared enough of this. I hope you guys, I hope, the outcome is better than what it's looking like now, outcome at the end of the night when we wake up in the morning, 2 days from now, a day from now, I don't know when they'll call it. But with Donald Trump already at 192 electoral votes, and only needs 270. And if he wins Pennsylvania, it's a wrap. Yeah, it's a wrap. So, anywho, I'm out of here, man. But I appreciate y'all jumping in and tuning with me in for this watch, at least 40 minutes of this watch. But it's bedtime now, so I guess when I wake up in the morning, I know what's really going on. So we'll holler at y'all, man. Be good. We'll talk to y'all later.